We are Gold Ivy.
Our mission is to empower you to own and unleash your truth.
Stories of resiliency are gold, and ivy grows in hard places.
Those hard places are what create space for light to shine through.
You decide what works for your daily life and how to transform our lessons into your gold.
This is Ivy Unleashed,
a Gold Ivy production. Brooke, what do you think everyone wants more of?
Energy.
What do you think most people are hoping to come out of 2023 with?
Feel more confident, be an example for others, actually have the self-discipline to take care of themselves.
Yes, exactly. Because we hear the need for it and we want to help you get in the best shape of your life, we created Move with Gold Ivy, our virtual workout platform.
Our dream has been to create accessible, affordable, and effective workouts that you can do anytime, anywhere, designed to hold you accountable and get you the results you need.
You can pick any workout you want at any time, but if you do want a plan that alternates muscle groups and leaves your body feeling energized and strong, we have a weekly plan that you can follow to take the guesswork out.
It's easy to navigate and packed with all kinds of workouts that will help you strengthen, trim, pump up, tone, energize, de-stress, all of the things we want our body to feel. It's within Move.
Don't forget to mention the resources we offer. As a member of Move with Gold Ivy, you'll be a part of our exclusive Ivy League community, where we share our top wellness resources on things like meal planning, gut health hacks, time management, and more.
And because you listen to the Ivy Unleashed podcast, we want to offer you all of this for only $20 a month, cheaper than any monthly membership you'll find.
Not only that, you'll get a free trial week to test it out.
And if you need more incentive to start prioritizing you, here's our favorite part. Your movement matters. Each month, 10% of your membership will be donated to support the mental health of those in need.
So head on over to goldivyhealthco.com/move or find the link within the show notes of this episode and sign up today. Stop putting yourself in the back burner. Snag your spot and reap the benefits that you deserve to feel this year.
It's your time. Move for your health, move for your confidence, move for your mental clarity, move with Gold Ivy.
Welcome back to Ivy Unleashed. Thank you for joining us. Today is super exciting because Brooke and I want to talk about something that we just like scratched the surface of it sometimes. Mm-hmm. And in the self-growth and development world, it's talked about a lot.
A lot. And a lot of people kind of think it's woo-woo-y. We'd like to say we're one woo.
One woo.
We're getting there though. And what we're talking about is manifesting.
And the law of attraction. So we brought on Kelsey Aida. Welcome to Ivy Unleashed.
Thank you. Sorry for interjecting my giggles in there, but y'all are funny. So
I love it. We love all the giggles.
Yes.
That's what it's about, right? Feeling good, raising your vibration. I think manifestation and the law of attraction gets that woo-woo-y rep because people don't take the time to learn about it or to read about it. So people listening, we're about to change your life, and we're so excited.
Yeah, and Kelsey is not only a podcast host where she talks about this, she's an author, and we've been really diving into her work, and it's super interesting because I think this topic can be overwhelming, but what you've done and what you've created really makes it accessible, and it doesn't feel so like witchcrafty. Like, you know what I mean? First of all, before we even get into manifesting, let's hear more about you, Kelsey, your story and kind of what brought you to doing the work that you do today.
yeah. Well, first of all, thanks for having me on this show. I'm already having so much fun, loving the vibe. So my story, the interesting part starts like in my teenage years. So when I was about 17, I kind of fell into a depressive episode. And when I say episode, I mean like I had depression for like 3 years plus. And when I was at the bottom of that pit, I was just needing a way to get out. And of course, like when one is in the throes of depression, you're like entertaining the idea of suicide, or you're like, I don't know, like I used to feel good, but now I don't feel good. It's like really confusing. How do I get back to that space? When I was like in that zone, I just had this epiphany one day that like I wasn't my depression. I was like, wait a minute. I didn't always used to feel like this. Like this isn't my personality. Like now this is how I'm expressing myself and what I'm experiencing, but like this isn't me. This isn't my soul. This isn't like my purpose on earth to just be here sad. Like there has to be more to life than just this misery that I'm experiencing. And I had that sort of like breakthrough that kind of came to me. And in that, I decided like I was going to dedicate my life to learning how to feel really good. And that was like my only way. It was that or the other way. And I didn't want to go the other way. So I was like, okay, I need to figure this out. God, universe, spirit team, whatever is out there, life, like help a girl out. I need help, send resources. Like I'm open, I'm here for it, I'm ready. I'm sick and tired of feeling sick and tired. And like, this is what I'm dedicating my energy to, the little energy that I had. And in making that declaration, the right tools and resources and people and support and perspectives started entering my realm. And from there, I dove deep into personal development, energy, healing, emotions, psychology. And that's when I was really introduced to the concept of the law of attraction and the idea that your thoughts create your things and that you're always vibrating at a certain frequency and you can use that frequency to make your life better. And so I was just on this up and up journey, and I was able to heal naturally. I say naturally because I didn't use medicine because I didn't want to. I didn't feel that was the right choice for me, although I'm not against antidepressants, but I didn't want to use medicine. I was like hardcore achiever mode. I got to figure out how to feel better. And eventually, when I did, I was just like, man, if only everybody could have access to this information, this wisdom, these tools, these practices. And something in me was just like, you need to be the person to bring this information to people, especially because you're good at mastering and synthesizing information. Like how you said, like the way that I make it really accessible, like that's something I've always been good at with lots of different topics. And even growing up in school, I would tutor my friends on different things that the teachers would say. And the way that I would say it would make it land for them. Whereas the teacher had been teaching on it for like 6 hours. It was really complicated. They still weren't getting it. And at recess, I would just be like, oh, it's just like this. Just think about it like this and like simplify it. And they'd be like, oh, and I'd see the light bulbs go off. And so I just always had a gift for really making things accessible and being a teacher of simplicity. And so I really wanted to be an author to help spread all these messages that I was learning and things that were on my heart during my healing journey. And now that's evolved into 5 books and counting, international retreats, one-on-one coaching, a podcast. So I've really just dedicated my life to this work because I think that quality of life is the most important thing, and that life is short and we should enjoy it to the maximum.
I love it. Thank you for walking us through that. And hearing where you started and where you're at now is incredible with the declaration, right? You decided that I want something else, that the depression isn't me. And I think labeling yourself as I'm depressed, I'm anxious, it can really hurt us. And that's something that, as you're speaking, I resonate a lot with your story because I was there and I was like, I don't want to live like this. I don't want to live in pain, but I want to be here and something needs to change. And it was taking ownership of wanting the resources, wanting to learn. And as you're speaking about the law of attraction and you're teasing it a little, I'd love for you to go into like what resources really became available that you clung to, that you learned about to help you heal.
Oh my gosh. So there were so many books. One of the best books at that time for me that kind of like opened my eyes to life and spirituality was, I'm literally seeing it in my mind. It's the blue one with the horse on the front by Michael A. Singer. And it's a bestseller, and you'll find it. It was his first bestseller. And that book just really helped me to like blow my mind open to like how life works and connect with my higher self and my soul. But at that time, I was introduced to Abraham Hicks, which anyone who's into law of attraction, manifestation is like, oh yeah, I've heard me some Abraham on YouTube, or maybe you've been on a cruise with them or whatever. But basically a teacher that speaks a lot about the law of attraction. And I think to me, what was resonating was the piece of like, you can have more control is the wrong word, but for lack of a better word, you can have more control over your experience and you can live more intentionally if you choose to and if you know how to. Because really the basics of the law of attraction, most people would say the basics of the law of attraction is the definition that like energy attracts like energy, right? So people always say your vibe attracts your tribe. That's why you attract people who are so similar to you, as I'm sure you guys are similar to each other. Or, you know, your thoughts create things, which is also like true. Like all of these cliche teachings of the law of attraction have truth, but really to be a manifester, to practice manifesting, it's just living your life really intentionally and aligning your energy with your goals. And this can look like thinking thoughts that are supportive of where you want to go, or seeing yourself as the version of you that can have that thing, or being open to possibility, or knowing what you actually want and then going for it, knowing what you want and then asking for it. So there's so many different ways to interact with the manifestation practice and to do intention setting work and to manifest what you want. But at the end of the day, the law of attraction is just a universal law similar to the law of gravity, something that's always happening, always in place, that basically states that like you're an energetic match to everything in your experience. And sometimes it's easier to think of as like the law of mirroring, where whatever's happening internally for you is going to be reflected back to you via like your life circumstances. So that's why we can find so much mirroring in relationships, right? We might have relationships with people who we really love that mirror the parts of ourselves that we really love and accept. Or we might have relationships with people that we really don't love. And those usually reflect the parts of ourselves that we've disowned, denied, shunned, pushed away. Or, you know, everything in every area of your life is in some way a vibrational match to who you are, how you're thinking, how you're being, how you're moving, the choices that you're making. And yeah, that's basically my summary. Hopefully it makes sense.
It does make sense. Exactly what you're saying before. The way that you speak about it makes it feel like, oh, that makes sense. And I was listening to one of your podcast episodes earlier today, and you were talking about how that vibrational match or that vibrational energy, and how if you look around it, what's happening in your world, how things are going, it is a direct reflection of probably what you're saying to yourself or how you're feeling inside. And I was thinking about that. I'm like, oh, that's like pretty powerful to think about. So like you said, you have the choice. Like I came back from a trip and I was feeling depleted and low and like, oh my gosh, I'm so tired. But I have the choice to get enough sleep. I have a choice to do things that make me feel better. And so I love that whatever, you know, whether it's small like that on a trip or you're having a major depressive episode, to give yourself the opportunity to make a different choice. Yeah. And there's action involved in that.
Yeah. What are some of those action steps, Kelsey, that you took to start shifting you from that depressive state to abundance?
Yeah, well, one of the biggest ones was honestly just shifting my perspective. And I kind of hinted to it when I was telling the story, but what I didn't say was there was one specific perspective shift that I had where instead of saying like I am depressed or I am this depression or I'm a depressed person, I literally just switched my verbiage in my mind and started thinking about it like this. Okay, so if I'm mentally ill, if this is a mental illness, like people get colds all the time, but they get better. Like I've gotten colds and then I got better. I've had the flu and then I got better. So if my brain is sick in the same way that my body gets sick, like why wouldn't my emotional body be able to heal itself in the same way that my body knows how to heal itself, right? So I started trusting in the intelligence of my emotional body. And instead of saying, I'm sick, I have depression, I'm a depressed person, I was just like, I'm not my depression. This is just a temporary experience that I'm having, in the same way that if I'm sick with a cold, I'm going to like rest, take a nap, you know, drink more fluids, but I'm not going to be like, oh, I am my cold. I'm going to have my cold forever. Like, this is the end of me. You know, that's not it. You're just like expecting that you'll feel better when you feel better. And I think that perspective shift was one of the major like breaking through points in my healing journey. And perspective work is one of the main things I do with my clients and at my retreats and in my books, because the fastest way to shift your life experience is not to rearrange your circumstances and go get a new job or go get a new husband or do like all these things in the 3D. The fastest way to change your experience is to change how you're looking at your life, how you're looking at yourself, what you're telling yourself about your life and about you. Perspective shifting, I think, is like step number one to making any sort of change, because you can always choose a better feeling thought. You can always go in the direction of relief. You can always think a thought that's just maybe slightly higher or more elevated or better feeling than the one you're in now. And that's much easier to do than, oh, I need to change my whole life from the outside in. No, you just need to change how you're thinking about certain things. And from there, you can, go into your life and see what actually needs adjusting. Like, is it your life that needs to be changed, or is it the way that you're looking at it?
I
That's
love really
that.
powerful to think about.
Yeah, it made me think of Gabby Bernstein. She has the choose again method, which is really what I'm hearing you say. And that's something that helped me a lot is, how is this thought that I'm having making me feel? Okay, like crap. So what would be a better thought? You can't control what thoughts come in, but you can control which thoughts you give meaning to. And so becoming aware of what thoughts you're having, of what even perspective are you choosing. And I think getting a book like yours, listening to podcasts, you're really creating that awareness of, what the hell am I even telling myself? Like, I think that even is the step before the perspective shift, right? Is, what am I even telling myself?
And anybody can do this. My 8-year-old does this. Like, we have an exercise where it's kind of like a thought onion, like, what thought am I having? There's a picture. He picks which one it's making him feel like. And if he could change to a different face, like, what thought would he need to have? And it's like, literally anybody can do this.
Oh, that's so cute. I love that exercise. And yeah, it really is the choose again method. And it starts with awareness, like how you're saying, questioning, okay, how am I looking at this? What am I thinking about this? How is that making me feel? Because every thought is, well, most thoughts, not every thought, some are just fleeting, but most thoughts are going to create an emotional experience for you, right? But you get to be choosy with your thoughts. And I think a lot of people don't naturally practice that. It's something we learn, but thoughts are not facts. Beliefs are not facts. Feelings are not facts. So you can choose whichever ones you prefer. And the only way to be choosy is to first notice like what's going on internally and notice how it's affecting you. Is it making you feel empowered or disempowered? Is it making you feel good or bad? And go from there.
I'm curious to hear your thoughts on affirmations, because I know they can fall flat, they can be powerful, but how do you create powerful ones? And what are your thoughts on affirmations?
Yeah. So my thoughts on affirmations are that they are amazing when they work, and they don't work for everyone all the time because people have been taught to fake it till they make it, which I don't like. And in some scenarios, if it feels fun to fake it till you make it, that's different. But if you feel fraudulent when you're faking it till you're making it and you're like, oh, I'm a millionaire, I'm in my dream relationship, I live in my awesome mansion, but it's like not true, and you're trying to use those affirmations, chances are you're probably going to feel bad about yourself, bad about your life. You're going to feel fake, you're going to feel phony. And like creating those feelings in your body is not going to do anything for you to manifest what you want, right? So in that sense, the affirmations are really hurting you more than they're helping you. But I've actually written 2 books on affirmations. So I am still obsessed with them and using them in an authentic and more empowering way. And to me, that means the affirmation has to bring you either a sense of relief or a sense of empowerment. And so you can test different affirmations on like the same way you would try on different outfits. Like, let's say you're not feeling great about your finances, but like you do ultimately want to manifest financial freedom. Instead of saying, I'm financially free and then feeling bad because that's not true yet, you can say, I'm working towards feeling more financially free. I'm learning about financial abundance every day. I'm working on being more financially empowered. I'm open to receiving more money than I ever have before. So it's really a play with words, a play with the sentiment, and just trying on different affirmations in each moment to see, can it bring you relief? Can it bring you openness? Can it bring you expansion? Can it bring you excitement? And if it's not doing any of those things for you, then that's just not the affirmation for you in that moment.
When do you recommend people use these affirmations? Is it like in the morning, you're looking in the mirror before you go to bed? Like, I know there's different times to do it when your subconscious is like roaring. What do you recommend?
Yeah, honestly, I feel like when you're feeling good or excited about anything is always a great time to like resource your affirmations. And there's so many different ways to play with affirmations. You can write them in a journal, you can put sticky notes all around your house, you can put reminders on your phone. Like there's so many different ways that you can make your affirmation practice fun and like accessible. I don't think there's necessarily like a specific time of day that you have to do them, but I would say the more excited, open, and relaxed you are is probably a better state of mind to be practicing them in. And for me personally, I like to practice them in journal format, usually in the morning, or even sometimes, like if I'm not feeling that great, I'll affirm my way into a better feeling state. So let's say I'm like having anxiety about my relationship or something. I'll just say affirmations like, even though I'm worried right now, like my relationship is really safe and secure. Or like, even though I'm not feeling great today, we have a beautiful relationship or whatever it is. And this is kind of leading me also to another thing that I should just mention here. I don't know how familiar you guys are with tapping with emotional freedom technique, but it's basically a technique where you tap on different acupressure points in your body while you're affirming affirmations, while you're reciting certain affirmations. And that's another way you can use affirmations. So it's kind of a loaded question because there's so many different ways and so many different times and applications for affirmations. But one person told me, one of my readers. So my second book is called Affirmations for Happiness, and you can pretty much flip to any page and just get a little burst of sunshine. It's like a little sunflowery book, and there's mantras and affirmations in there. And they were like, yeah, I like to keep mine on the toilet because then like every time I go to the bathroom in the morning, I just open my affirmation book and I can start the day off right. So
did you manifest that happening? Did you want your book to be a toilet bowl book that hung on the bathroom?
Oh yeah, I was visualizing for months, like this needs to be the toilet book.
Let's talk about visualization though, because I think that's such a powerful component of manifesting, right? So you said perspective shift. Where would you say visualization is in the lineup of like how to manifest?
I would put it in the intention setting category. So like if we're talking about steps to manifesting, first you need to know like what you want to manifest. So I would call that like a step of clarity. Usually before the clarity, there's a step of contrast, which means like you're experiencing what you don't want, what you don't like, some sort of like hardships or challenges in life. That's what gives you the usually like the clarity and the birth for the new desire. So you go through the contrast, you get some clarity, then you do some intention setting work. And I would say that visualization falls in line with that step of the process.
Okay. And walk us through that. What does visualization look like for you? What do you recommend?
Yeah. So my favorite way to visualize is either through writing or through meditation. So I'll give you an example. So when I'm manifesting more money per se, I might open my manifesting journal and write something like, I'm feeling super financially free. This is so awesome. I always wanted to live like this. And I'm pretending that like it's already happening. So I'm imagining myself like poolside, making sales, helping people in my sleep, like passive income life, course creator life. And I'm imagining how I'm feeling, where I am, what I'm thinking, what's going on. And I'm just writing all that as if it's happening in the present tense. Or I also really like to do this in meditation form. And usually it's easiest in like a guided meditation where someone's kind of guiding you through what to see and visualize in your mind. But I love to, staying on the topic of money, like meditate and imagine that money is like flowing into my body and that I'm like magnetizing it in with every breath. So like every time I inhale, money comes closer to me or goes deeper into me. And then every time I exhale, it just like settles in my body until it accumulates so much that I have to start like deploying it and becoming like a channel for money. I would say for me, it's writing or meditating are my two favorite ways to practice visualization. But a lot of people love vision boards where you make a vision board or you use Pinterest or you make a Canva graphic that has like everything you want your life to be visualized there for you to look at. Just depends on how people like to use their imagination, I would say.
And why is that such an important step for manifesting?
Yeah, I think because when you can see the end goal in your mind, you're feeling what that would feel like in your body. And that energetic shift in your body is what's going to help you to create it much more fast and help it to be like magnetized to you.
Yeah, and you talk a lot about that with your vibration and matching what you want. And I think that's important to think about when you're like, how will I feel in that moment? And so this is the woo-woo-y part, right? It's like, yeah, you see it, yeah, you feel it, but like,
Well, it involves a level of trust. And
yeah.
quite frankly, that's what I struggle with is like, I don't see it. Therefore, I can't believe it because I've never had it. Right. So I've seen it in different ways of like my health, but like I've also done a lot of action to take my health back. So it's like that level of, yes, I want to visualize. I know it feels good, but then I open my eyes and I see my bank account and it's not where I want, so it's like, how do we overcome the trust? Yeah.
Can I give you a tip? Because I'm sure there's other people listening to who are like not trusting and they're like, fuck visualization, excuse my French.
No, it's okay.
This is exactly why you're here, Kelsey. Please tell us.
In order for visualization to be really powerful and most effective, you have to allow yourself temporarily to dream. So you just set aside the non-belief for a few moments. So you tell your non-believer self in your mind, okay, I'll let you come back in a few minutes, but just for like 5 minutes, we're not gonna like say this can't happen. We're not gonna focus on what is. We're just gonna be open to anything being possible. And if anything were possible, like this is what I would want, this would be awesome. So you have to suspend the disbelief, at least temporarily. You just put it aside. That's a choice you got to make. And then you also don't have to visualize like all the specifics because not everyone is a very specific manifester. So instead, you can just focus on and think about and cultivate in your body like the feelings. So let's say you don't have clarity on like, you want a new career, but you don't know what that looks like. All you know is that you like right now, you hate your job, you don't feel valued, you don't feel fulfilled, you're not having fun. So then you're like, okay, what are the feelings I'm really after? I want to feel fulfilled. I want to feel abundant. I want to feel like I'm having fun. I want to be a part of a team. I want to feel valued. I want to feel needed. I want to feel like I'm making a meaningful contribution to the world. Those feelings, you can let them wash over you now. It's like a little game. Like, oh, let me see how long I can hold on to these feelings. In the same way, like you can smile and it makes you feel more happy, or you can like frown your eyebrows and it make you feel more stressed. You can cultivate any feeling that you can think of, and it doesn't necessarily have to be one that you've experienced before. Although, if you have experienced something similar before, you can use that to your advantage. So it doesn't have to be like, oh, I've had all that money before, but that one time I felt so abundant when I was hanging out with all my friends and family and I felt like how loved I was, or something like that.
I love that. And I'm thinking too, just based off what Brooke's asking and what I've heard you talk about before, is not having to know the how.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would love for you to talk about that, like knowing what you want, but you don't have to know how you're going to get it. Can you just elaborate on that? Because it is super intriguing.
That's the woo-woo-y of like, just believe it'll magically come.
Well, you don't have to believe it'll magically come, because chances are like you're going to be involved in the process of making it come, because manifestation is not, it's not usually like as sexy as they try to sell it to you. Like, oh, just think it and it'll happen. Like what's more likely is you'll want something and then you're going to have to take steps towards it at the same time as it's like being birthed like for you and also through you. I think a lot of people, they don't touch on like the co-creative aspect of manifesting as much because it doesn't sell, right? It's not so sexy to be like, oh yeah, in order for you to manifest $1 million, you might have to act on that $1 million idea.
Yes.
Like a lot of people are just like, oh, just think it and it'll arrive like a Uber Eats delivery. And like, yes, that can happen, but also like, what's the fun in that? Because part of the fun is like being the person who helped to create that end goal, but it's not that you're doing it alone. So I guess the woo-woo, the magic part would be in being open to the possibility that like if you ask for help and you ask for what you want, like you'll get that support and it'll be easier for you to create what you're asking for.
I think something that's helped me over the years is learning about how the brain works, right? Like I'm obsessed with the brain, and the RAS, the reticular activating system, is when you know what you want, your brain is like, oh, attention, pay attention to that. So it's the same reason why if you want a Chevy, you're going to see a Chevy everywhere because you're paying attention to it. It's like when you declare what you want, well, then the steps to get it, your brain is already like hardwired to look for it in a way. So you're paying more attention to what opportunities should I grab? What should I move forward with to help me with this end goal?
Exactly. And to go back to the question of the how, and why I'm always saying the how is not your job, is because so many times we have a big dream or a goal or a desire. And because we don't know every single step to do in order to get there, we just try to pretend like we don't want it. And we're just like, oh, that's not possible for me. So let me just be like, oh, it's not that important to me, or like, whatever, it's not going to happen anyway. So let me just not try. When really, like, you don't need to know every single step. You just need to step in that direction somehow. There is no like right action. You don't have to take super massive action. You just have to start moving in that direction in whatever way is available to you. And maybe it's obvious, maybe it's not obvious, but when you ask your life, when you ask God, when you ask the universe, like, hey, help me create this outcome, help me create this experience, the path gets revealed to you, breadcrumb by breadcrumb. And it's your job to follow those and go through the open doors.
That totally makes sense.
And I want to talk about resistance, because that's what I feel like sometimes I don't think we're aware of what our resistance to it is. I do think sometimes it's therapy or a coach or something, but a lot of people don't have those things. And so let's talk about resistance and what kind of gets in the way of us manifesting our dreams.
Yeah. So resistance, otherwise known as split energy, is basically when part of your energy and part of yourself is working towards the goal and another part is not, or working against or repelling that actual thing that you're asking for. So this could look like, well, consciously, I really want to manifest my soulmate and this awesome partnership, but subconsciously, there's a part of me that's like, F men, F love, F dating. I'm not willing to do that again. I don't want to get heartbroken again. Relationships are not for me. No way. So you have this push and pull internal tug of war of like, this is what I say I want, but not all of me is on board, right? So that's just like one way resistance can present itself. There's so many ways. I mean, resistance can be in the form of a limiting belief, thought that's feeling bad, convincing yourself you can't do it, resisting your desire, resisting how you feel, resisting your current circumstances. Like there are many ways we resist things. But to answer your question, like if you aren't working with someone who can get into those blind spots and help you figure out what the resistance is, there are some questions you can ask yourself and do a little self-inquiry to kind of identify the resistance and start to work through it. And people who have mastered their resistance are the ones who are really successful in life. And they may or may not call it manifesting. They may or may not tie it to the law of attraction, but they know how to work through their own resistance so that they can go for and get to where they want to go. So one of the questions is to just ask yourself, like, once you have your goal or your desire, is there any part of me that's not on board with this thing? And just listen. I promise you, different parts of your psyche, you're going to be like, I don't know if you guys ever saw, there was this commercial. I don't even remember what it was for, but it was this woman and she was like in a meeting with all these different versions of herself. And one was like this nerdy one, and one was like the hater, like the bitchy one. Another was like, they were all different parts of her personality. But that's kind of actually how we all are. We have many different aspects in our psyche. Like for me, I have a part of me that's always anxious. I have a part of me that's like a cheerleader. I have a part of me that's a mean girl, right? And they all live together in your psyche. And we're just walking around here thinking, oh, I'm just one person with one personality. But no, it's important to know that you have many different aspects of you living inside, because part of your job as a masterful creator is to get them all on board so you can actually move towards your dreams, towards your goals. And that's a big part of troubleshooting resistance that I help my clients with and stuff. Yeah, you can ask yourself, is there any part of me that's not on board? And then you can also ask yourself, like, is there any reason that getting what I want might be bad or scary or negative? Like, do I secretly believe there would be any repercussions to getting what I want? And when you ask that question, usually a lot of things could come up. Like, for example, if you're trying to manifest more money, you might ask yourself that and realize, oh, I think that if I get more money, then people are going to come after me for my money, or, you know, whatever secret like fears you have in your psyche. It's important to just ask questions like that and open up that dialogue with yourself. And that's how you can start to identify some of those pieces of resistance and start to like work through them.
I think it's just interesting to think about like sitting with that, because you have a meditation that does that, where you're sitting there, you know, you're invited to close your eyes and you're thinking about your life, and you ask the question, like, is any part of you not on board? And then you pause. And it's like, it's just the time that we all need to sit with, right? And so that's why I think guided meditation is so powerful, because you have somebody asking a powerful question. And a lot of times we just don't know what to ask ourselves. Kelsey has a free meditation. I would love for you to plug where people can find that, because it's really powerful.
Yes. Okay, so that one you can find at kelseyaida.com/MM for Money Magnetics, freebie, FREEBIE. And that's a free guided meditation that I made that kind of combined all my favorite guided meditations around money and some of the more powerful practices that I've used to manifest more money, all in a 13-minute experience that you can download for free. So you can go to that link. I'm sure they'll link to it in the show notes, and you can grab that meditation. But I love guided meditations for that purpose too, because they can help point you in the right direction, open you to new information about yourself, and give you the time and the space to like really integrate and process those pieces of information.
Yeah, and it's good. Andrew and I both did it today. And we're like, oh my gosh, we need to do this every day.
What came up for you?
Yes, do it every day and then report it back to me in 3 months, because I want to know how rich you are.
Okay.
I like it.
Okay. Accountability. I like it. I think part of doing it is loving yourself enough to take the time to dream, right? To think about, what do I want? So I'm curious how you feel self-love plays into manifesting.
Yeah, so self-love, I think, is like the missing key for a lot of people, because if you don't feel worthy of your desires, you're never going to go after them. Or if they fall into your lap, let's say you meet the most beautiful, perfect partner for you, but you don't let them in because you're like, oh, I'm not good enough for this person, or I don't deserve love, or whatever, then what good is that? You could be the best manifester in the world and get everything you want, but if you're not letting it in, if you're not receiving that with grace, if you're not allowing yourself to have that experience, then what good is that, right? So to me, self-love is paramount. And it's not only paramount in receiving the manifestations, but it's also paramount in allowing yourself to dream, like how you said, giving yourself permission to want what you want. And a lot of the process of becoming that's involved in manifesting is a self-love journey. So in order to become the person who has that life that you're wanting, that you're dreaming of, there's going to be a lot of healing work involved, a lot of self-love work involved, a lot of raising your vibration involved. And so that's kind of how I became to be like this manifestation self-love teacher, because at first I was really just teaching on the manifesting part. And then I went through this whole traumatic relationship, blah, blah, blah. Long story short, it was bad. My life was like a movie, and not in a good way, for like a year. When I went through that experience, it was like an emotionally abusive relationship, but he was really just mirroring to me like the evil parts of myself that I had like denied and disowned. And it was bad, but it was a mirror really for me. And in that, I was like, man, this self-love piece is everything. Because after that relationship, when I really took positive ownership of my well-being, started loving myself more deeply, that's when my whole life went to like next level in every way. Because when you practice self-love, you create internal harmony. And that internal harmony, due to the law of mirroring, law of attraction, begins to reflect back to you in every area of your life. And because life is relationships, right? Like I have a relationship with you girls now. I have a relationship with my phone. I have a relationship with my car. I have a relationship with food. I have a relationship with working out, a relationship with social media, my house. Like everything is a relationship. When you master the ultimate relationship, the relationship between you and you, then all the other relationships in life just like fall into place, because the one with yourself is the hardest. So if you can get that one right, all the other ones become so much easier, and then life becomes so much easier.
I've felt that in the last year. I hired a coach and spent a lot of money, invested in myself. And I feel that all of my relationships are more harmonious because of that. And I think it's the uncomfortable work of really, really focusing on like, what are my deepest fears, insecurities, like those ugly parts of you that you don't want to look at, right? You don't want to think about, or you don't want to own. It's tough. It's tough work. And so I think that's why a lot of people don't do it, but it's definitely worth it. Like, to have that harmony and peace, like that's the ultimate feeling we all want. And so it's worth it. And I can speak to that too, of like really investing the time and energy to go there. I cried every session for 90 minutes straight for every week for like 4 months, but it was worth it.
Yeah. You have to be willing to go there, right? We always talk about you're in a cocoon, or like it's dark, it's heavy, but then comes the rebirth, and you have to be willing to sit with your fears, with your darkest thoughts, to get clarity on what you want. It's scary, and a lot of people don't want to do it. They don't want to spend the time on themselves, the money. But if you want things to change, if you want a better life, something has to change. You have to take ownership. And what you're saying, Kelsey, that first piece is the self-love, and then the manifesting, and then all of the things that you want, they come to fruition because you have that relationship where you love yourself. How many women can look in the mirror and say, I am obsessed with myself? And I think that's a goal. I want to be obsessed with myself.
But I'm curious what you think, Kelsey, about that. Like that line of being, self-love and narcissism.
Yes.
That line of feeling selfish, that line of feeling like, oh my gosh, she's obsessed with
like
herself.
Egotistic.
Yes. So how do you play with that line with women, especially going from someone that does not love themselves at all to, maybe having to go through those difficult feelings of feeling selfish for focusing on themselves?
Yeah, this is a brilliant question, and it comes up so much to the point where I did a whole podcast episode on it. So if you guys want to hear like an hour's worth answer to this question, please listen to my podcast. I don't know what number it is, but if you just search high vibe in it, narcissism, it'll come up. And it was like a whole episode on the difference between self-love versus narcissism. And to be quite frank, well, first of all, narcissism is a word that we use too loosely, because not all people that we say are narcissists actually have narcissistic personality disorder, right? We're like, oh, my ex was a narcissist, but like probably they didn't actually have narcissistic personality disorder. So that's a distinction to be made. But when we use narcissism synonymous with like people who are just selfish and don't take in other people's needs, actually, if you're a self-loving person, it's the opposite of narcissism. Because one, you're taking positive ownership of your needs, your wants, your desires. And from a spiritual perspective, everyone is a fragment of you. So this is how I look at it. This is my spiritual, gonna get woo-woo, sorry, belief of, if God is everything and everyone, and I'm a fractal of God, I'm a fractal of this universe, then yes, I'm me, I'm Kelsey, but when I zoom out, I'm also this water bottle, I'm also this crystal, I'm also the grass, I'm also all my friends and my family. And when you take positive ownership for yourself and love yourself, that also gets reflected on the macro. So yes, it's micro, you relating to yourself, but on the macro, when you become more self-loving to yourself, you become more self-loving to all parts of yourself, aka other people too. And loving yourself more only makes you better at relationships. Where people get confused is, where do I end and another person begins? What about boundaries? How do I honor my needs and other people's needs too? And that's definitely a dance where you have to take into consideration everyone and everything. But it's not selfish to make yourself as important as other people. I think people think that self-love is, I'm better than other people, I'm more important than other people. And it's not that you're more important than them. It's just that you're more important to yourself more often. And it's that you're just as important as them to yourself, right? So if you're like, relating to someone and they have needs and you have needs, like you make your needs matter too. It's not that you make them more important than the other person's. You honor everybody's needs, but it's that definition of taking positive ownership for oneself, but that doesn't mean you disregard all others. Usually when you become more self-loving, you become more loving to everyone around you, which I'm sure you've probably experienced. I've experienced that. And any of my clients will tell you that like they only became more loving people once they started practicing more self-love.
Yeah. I love too that it's a dance. That's a good way of saying it, because sometimes you do need more love for yourself than you can give to other people because you're depressed and you need to just not focus on anybody else but yourself because you're so depleted, right? And then there's the dance of, I'm in such a good spot, I want to go volunteer more. Yeah. Or I can give more to others, or, you know, whatever.
Think of it like this too. If the world were full of people who loved themselves more, there would be more happy people, more people going for their dreams, more people with healthy relationships with themselves, less people with mental illness, less people that were depleted. And the world would actually be a much more high functioning place where we could all support each other more because all of our glasses would be more full. So that's the lens that I'm coming from, of like, self-love is the greatest gift you can give to yourself and the world, because you become healthier, you become happier, you become more whole, more healed, more free. And that's a gift to everybody in your life.
Yeah, I always view it as I can't give if I have nothing to give. Right? Like I have to be whole first. If I'm not feeling well, if I'm completely depleted, how am I going to show up and help other people be better? I can't serve if I'm feeling terrible. So it's yes, it's an and thing, right? I pour into me and I pour into you, but it comes back to you have to have something to pour, and it doesn't make you selfish if you have to take a time out and say, "Hey, I got to put myself in, coach."
Yeah. And some people might misunderstand and label you as selfish because they're not used to not getting what they want in that moment from you. Like if you've never practiced boundaries with certain people and then you do start practicing them, they're probably not going to like it, but that doesn't mean you're not loving them. You know, I think that's an important distinction to make.
And Kelsey, you have a book, Letters to the Universe, which is brilliant. And I think it's a really easy way for anybody to get started with manifesting, or just like see if it's right for them. Because I think some people are like, what are we talking about here? So would you tell our listeners about what scripting is and about your book?
Yeah. So scripting is just a visualization process that I kind of alluded to earlier, where you set aside disbelief for a few moments and you take yourself there in your mind as to like, what would it feel like if you were in that end result? Let's play around with those feelings a little bit and let's write it down. So for example, okay, I'll read you guys one. Yes. I'll read you what I got.
I love it.
So here we go. This is my letter to the universe. Okay. So this is me scripting in real life. Dear universe, thanks in advance for connecting me with the right people, support, clients, resources, and results. I love doing what I do, and I love seeing email notifications of all my passive income and sales throughout the day. I love knowing that I'm in my flow and making an impact. I love contributing so much money to our finances. My handwriting is weird. I love when money feels easy and flowing. I love having a consistent and growing steady stream of income. I love, appreciate, and value all my clients and my team. I feel so supported by everything and everyone. So that's one example of scripting. So this is just me doing some money manifesting that team, which I do not have yet, but I will have, and things of that nature. So in the book, Letters to the Universe, it's really a manifesting journal where I guide you through like my special self-inquiry process, where you ask yourself some questions, get really clear about the goal. Why do you want it? What's stopping you from getting it? What are you willing to change to kind of move some energy here? And then you write a letter to the universe and you just take yourself there. And in doing that and spending time in that vibe, you are creating it first in the mind, and then it will be created in your life, because everything that exists right now was once a thought, an intention, right? A desire. Yeah, that's the process of scripting. And Letters to the Universe is cute because it has like perforated pages. So once you write your letter, you can tear it out, you can get witchy with it, you can burn it, you can sleep with it, you can put it in a little dream jar, you can put it under your crystal, like whatever you want to do. But I wanted it to be something where you could just resource it every time you have a new desire and just go through that same process, do your questions, do your letter, and then do something with the letter, or not, or just keep it all in your journal. And then you'll look back 50 years from now and be like, dang, look at all those things I wrote about. And now they're happening.
Do you have an example of something that you've scripted and then it became a reality, like a recent type of manifestation?
Yeah, like everything. So which one? Let me see. So, for example, I'm about to get married in like 6 weeks to my fiance, who's awesome. And I used to always write letters about him. And I used to write letters to him, which is a fun, like, love manifesting hack because probably the person that you're going to be with already exists in the world, unless you're going to have like a huge age gap, which, you know, not super common. So if you just assume that your person's out there, you can literally connect to their soul and just be like, hey, I know you're out there. I'm so excited to connect with you. I can't wait to see what you're like and what you do and how you are and how you feel and hug you. And I used to like write all kinds of stuff like that to him. And I used to write letters that would be like, I'm having so much fun in my relationship. This is the healthiest relationship I've ever been in. We just adore each other. We have so much fun together, blah, 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 XYZ. And it all happened. And I showed him when we first got together some of the scripting work that I did before I met him. And he was thoroughly freaked out by the accuracy, but also impressed in a good way, I think.
I just think it's interesting because, you know, I'm a religious person. I believe in God. And so whenever I like hear this word manifesting, I just get a little uncomfortable because I don't want to feel like I'm trying to be God, right? And I don't want to feel like I'm stepping on the plan's toes. And so how do you navigate that?
Yeah, nobody's ever asked me this question, but I honestly love it because I'm into God. I love God. I'm not super religious, but I have been to some churches, some masses, and I pick and choose the things I like about them. But God, universe, call it whatever you want. It's really, you have to think of it as like a co-creation. It's not that you are God and that you're playing God and that you're dictating and controlling every single thing of your life, because as we all know, that's impossible, right? You can't micromanage every aspect of your life. Like, we're not God, right? But from another sense, if we're children of God or aspects of God or from God, we have some same creative abilities in the same way that like a drop in the ocean is still H2O and it's a part of the ocean, but it still has ocean and water properties, right? It's not the whole ocean. You're not God, but you can be God-like. So it's kind of thinking of it like that. Like if I'm created from God, if I'm a child of God or a son of God, like, and also thinking of it like these desires were planted in your heart, probably by God. For what reason? Not to just torture you, for them to happen for you and through you.
And believe that you're worthy of them too. And the Bible actually says, like, ask me. Ask me for what you.
Yeah, there's actually a lot of juicy stuff in the Bible that you can relate back to manifestation and creation, all of this stuff that we're talking about.
Yeah, that's exactly how I look at it. It's like I have this calling in my heart, and how did it get there? And then the steps that reveal themselves, the how. If that's not our job, well, whose job is it, right? So as you're speaking, Kelsey, I keep thinking it. You know, the reason that it's so important to tap into that feeling is so when those steps reveal themselves, you know which ones are right because it's the feeling. So it's like, oh, does this podcast feel right? Oh yeah, it does. Hell yeah, let's do it. You know, it's kind of like you just know because yes, God or whatever you believe in the universe is placing them in, but you've already tapped into that feeling of what it would be like if you had it. So when they reveal themselves, it's kind of a no-brainer.
Yeah, it's like that energetic signature. Yeah, it's like you're giving yourself a preview and you're making yourself familiar with that sensation that you want so that when the opportunities arise to dive deeper into it, you can recognize them like in your being, like, oh, this feels like the feeling, you know, this is the thing. So, yeah, but I really love that question. And I actually had someone who loves my book, Letters to the Universe. She just retitled it Letters to God. And she just writes letters to God instead. And like, that's cool. Use whatever lingo or verbiage or beliefs that you have and work it into what you feel is near and dear to your heart. And I mean, I love God. I'm here for it. I'm always praising the Lord. I'm just like, man, life is good, you know?
It's a good distinction though, because I think there's just a lot of assumptions that come with manifestation. And I think it's important to acknowledge that this is a spiritual experience, you know, and, you know, allow people to love on themselves because that's what your spiritual master, whoever it is. That's what they want. They
Yes.
want you to love your life, your gift. You are a freaking miracle walking on this planet. It's so short. Like, let's tap into what we want. Let's use Kelsey's books and podcasts to like make it happen faster.
Yes. Well, and if the possibility of feeling better is out there and you're feeling not how you want to feel right now, why wouldn't you experiment with it? You know, for me, I'm like, well, this isn't going to hurt me. And then things started to feel good. And I'm like, this feels good. Let's keep doing it. So be open to just one woo.
You don't have to go full woo-woo today. You can just step through the door.
Yes. Welcome, welcome. But listen to the podcast, get the books. Where can they find the books, Kelsey?
3 out of the 5 books you can find in all the bookstores. So Letters to the Universe, My Pocket Guide to Manifestation, Affirmations for Happiness. You can find those at like every major book retailer on the shelves. Go to your local Books A Million, or not all small bookstores have them, but most of the big ones do. But you can find all my books on Amazon. If you go to KelseyAida.com, that's really where you can find everything and all the links, no matter where you want to buy it from. So that's probably the easiest place to go, is KelseyAida.com. And on there, you can also find the link to the podcast, which is called High Vibe in It, which is awesome every week. I mean, we're almost 200 episodes in, so we've been going for it.
It's so good.
It's a great free resource for anyone who wants to learn more. And Kelsey Aida at on Instagram, TikTok, Pinterest, Twitter, you name it. I'm just Kelsey Aida everywhere. And yeah, does that answer your question? I forgot what it was.
Totally does. We'll plug all of those in our show notes so you can get access to Kelsey, because we know you're going to want to.
Yes.
And we leave our listeners with 3 gold stars. So your top takeaways for our listeners, would you please share yours?
Well, these are more like wishes that I have for everyone listening. So my first wish is that everyone allows themselves to want what they want. Like, just be unapologetic about it. Own your desire. Like, if you want it, it's for a reason. Okay. So let yourself want what you want. Don't pretend that you don't want it just because you don't know how it's going to happen. You know, have a little faith and just allow yourself to want it. So that would be the first thing. The second thing is that you deserve to feel good, and don't let the things that you want, like, don't let not having those things yet block you from feeling good now. So please don't be like, oh, I'm not going to allow myself to feel sexy until I lose 20 pounds, or I'm not going to allow myself to feel abundant until I have $1 million, or I'm not going to allow myself to feel happy until I have that job, because truthfully, that day might never come. And then you're going to die and you'll be like, man, I never let myself feel how I wanted to feel because I was waiting for all those things to come. So allow yourself to dream, allow yourself to feel good. And lastly, okay, this is like so cliche, but this is what's coming to me, so it needs to be said. Basically, the message that came through loud and clear was just that you can do it. Even if you don't know how, even if you don't know when, even if you don't know what, like, you can do the thing that's in your heart because you're meant for it and it's meant for you. So just remember that and be open to the possibility. Like, if I could do it, what would I want to do?
Oh, it's so juicy. I love it. I'm so happy we met you. I just feel like you are just like, you're just like a star, like this shiny star that every post, every reel I was watching, every TikTok, every episode I was listening to, I'm like, gosh, I just feel like you bring in this light that's very unique and very different. And like you said before, you have a way of speaking that really makes it feel like I can do it. I think I can. I think I can feel good. I think I might be able to feel like a little bit better on my own. Thank you, Kelsey. So I'm so happy that our listeners now have access to you. They know about your podcast and where to find you. And so we just have a few more questions because why not?
Yeah, I love it. Thank you for that compliment. Oh, also, while we're plugging all the things, I wanted to offer all your listeners $200 off my retreat because I think you guys are awesome. And I'm sure all your listeners are awesome. So if anyone wants to come to Mexico in October for a self-love retreat and deepen their self-love with me in paradise, let me know that you're from Gold Ivy and I will hook it up.
Awesome.
Oh my gosh,
Where in
thank you.
Mexico?
Puerto Vallarta.
I got married there.
So you know where it is. Oh my gosh, where
I
did
do.
you get married? I might know.
Well, it used to be called Dreams, and now it's called Hotel Ziva.
Oh, I have not been there, but it sounds awesome.
Little private beach. It's adorable.
It would have been wild if that was where they're staying.
Oh my God.
Right? That would have been even more crazy. But yeah, it's really cute there. As you know, very beautiful, very magical, gorgeous sunsets. And it's a great place for healing and just being reborn. So if you're feeling the call, join me in October. I'll hook it up.
Where can people find more information about it?
Yeah, they can just go to kelseyAida.com/retreat.
Okay, our rapid fire questions. Kelsey, are you ready?
I think so.
So today I learned from you and your co-host Lindsay that handwriting is super important, which, I mean, if you can tell by the way you're saying with your books and you read out literally what you wrote, and that it's a direct line to our subconscious. So can you talk more about why it's important to not record you speaking, but to actually write things out?
Yeah. So when you write things down, it's really important for two reasons. One, yes, it's a direct line to your subconscious, which means that like when you're writing things, you're kind of like programming yourself for them in a way. So it works that way from like the outside in, but also it works from the inside out to make your ideas physical as you're writing it. So it's almost like when you put your thought on paper, it's in the physical world now, right? It's not just in your mind. So it's kind of like a representation for the manifestation process of thoughts turning to things, but you're just doing it in the present moment. And it's like, just by writing it, you already made it more real. You already made it that much more physical. And there's a bunch of science to support when you write your goals down, how much more likely you are to achieve them. There's like all kinds of crazy statistics on like these people who did and these people who didn't, and the ones who did were 80% more likely to achieve, or I don't know exactly the statistics, but there's a lot of studies and stuff on it that I would encourage people to check out.
All right, my question is more around like hacks, because a lot of your posts are like how to manifest, but like make your result happen faster. So what would you say are ways to do that, to make anything you want to manifest happen faster?
Ultimate hack, figure out what your resistance is and then release that. If you can't release it just by like being like, oh, I don't want to think this thought anymore, I don't choose to believe this anymore, you got to troubleshoot it, which could look like, okay, apparently I believe that money is the root of all evil. I just realized this is resistance in my mind. I don't want to feel that anymore. Let me look for evidence of people who are using money for good. Let me look at evidence for people who are super rich, who are also really awesome and are doing great things in the world. And that will make me feel better about it. So there's a little more work involved on the back end. You don't just see it and then you're like, oh, that's not for me anymore. You might have to reprogram. You might have to renew like a new belief and find evidence. But the ultimate hack is just releasing your resistance, because then your energy can flow towards what you want. You can magnetize what you want more clearly, and you're not like subconsciously stopping yourself from receiving or going for it.
That. Thank you.
Release, she
Yes.
says.
Release.
Circling back to what you said in the beginning, I believe the book you were referring to is the Untethered Soul.
Yes, that's the one.
I just wanted to make sure listeners
Good circle
knew.
back. Good
Thank
circle
you.
back.
Thank you. I Googled it and I just remembered it now. So I'm going to read that now. And Kelsey's book. I'm so excited. This is amazing. Okay, so last question. Kelsey, if you could go back and tell younger Kelsey one thing, what would you tell her?
Oh man, loaded question. I would tell her that she's more powerful than she knows, and to just lean into that.
I love that.
That gave me chills.
Yeah, I know. All right. Oh, I'm so sad to let you go, but I'm so happy now we're connected. I feel like this is not the end of us chatting with you. I love that I get to just follow you and have more time with you on your podcast and everything. But we always leave our listeners with a piece of gold, a quote that speaks to you.
Honestly, I have to bring it back to the resistance. I'm sorry to be on this repeat mode, but if you can, here's the quote. This keeps coming up in my teachings and in my courses and in my meditations and everything. It's just like the message is master your resistance, master your life. Master your resistance, master your life.
This is Gold Ivy signing off.
Listen to your truth and go chase your gold.